This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so starting over with our agenda, we had no questions or concerns. I've already welcomed everybody. Now we're on to unfinished business. I just discussed briefly that I had created a YouTube playlist for our reports training videos, and I'm looking to see. Nope, doesn't look like Dan has put that up on the website yet. So let me see if I can find the link in my email from Shannon, and if so, I'll pull that up so that we can at least see that that exists. I think this will be much easier to manage our training videos. For one thing, Dan and Ron will be able to basically just embed our training, our reports training playlist, and everything that gets added to that playlist from that point on will just automatically be part of that playlist. Let's see, YouTube. There it is. Okay, let me open this up in a new tab and I'll bring it over here. Okay, so you can see, I assume if you can see my screen, that we have 4 videos here. We have the introductory video, episode 2, which is folder management, episode 3, cloning templates, and episode 4, running reports. And those are all in the reports training playlist, which is what I shared to Dan and Ron. What I'm not sure about, I'm going to stop that real quick. Yeah, it looks like they're out of order. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of tweaking to figure out how to get these to run in an order that makes sense to someone newly coming to reports, because I think that definitely makes a difference. So that shouldn't be too difficult to manage, but now that we've got this playlist and it can be featured on our Missouri Evergreen Library's website, I think we can do some more of these kinds of trainings. And I've been doing them pretty informally. I'm hoping that by keeping that style fairly informal, that I can produce a variety of these as topics come up and people have questions. I can maybe just record a quick video answering someone's question and then add it, so that if it ever comes up again, we can maybe refer to the video, just make them available on the site, because I find that that's commonly how I learned about reports, is to have a problem, have somebody explain the solution to me, and then have it actually shown. And so if we can do that and make those videos available, that may be worthwhile for other members as well. Okay. So that's the only news that I have on our videos. The next topic is the report guides. I do have a few more of those done. They are not showing up on the website yet, so I will talk to Ron and Dan about what we need to do, if anything, to get those to show up. Again, that will be here on this reports training materials page, where we did actually get something added a few days ago, which is we have meeting notes from our committee meetings. So we're going to start archiving those, as well as recording all of our meetings for posterity and for people who can't make these meetings. So that hopefully will help people stay up to speed with what's going on with these committees. All right. So that kind of covers our training materials. That project is still ongoing. It's kind of in the background. I know a lot of people have a lot of other things going on right now, so it's still kind of chugging along, but in the background a little bit. Okay, the report usage report, just to bring people back up to speed, this was a report that I had asked Equinox to run for us. This is a report that Blake used to create for us back in the days when we had Mobius membership, or Mobius staff rather, showing up to our committee meetings, and he would run a report showing how often various report templates were being used and by whom. And I'll actually bring this tab over here and we can look at real quickly what that report now looks like. And actually, I'm going to open this in Sheets because that may be easier to read. So what we can see in this report, it's still opening, it's got several rows, so quite a bit to parse here. So what I had him do, I actually had him add a little bit of information here. We've got the number of runs, that the cumulative total number of runs that any template has had over the course of its creation and existence. And of course, these are all of the templates that are in the ME reports shared folder. And then for some reason, I'm gonna have to talk to him about making sure that we get our headers for these columns, because for some reason, these column headers are not in here. Although they're dates, and so they're pretty easy to figure out which one is which. This is the creation date. So this report was created back in 2012. And then the second date is the last time that it was run. This number, that I'm not positive about. But anyway, then these last two columns are the username and the library that last ran this report. So this will be used to periodically go back through our shared folders and make sure that we're not removing any templates that are being heavily used, or removing anything that has been recently run. So there are those instances where you've got something like this where overall it's had quite a few runs, but the last time it was run was way back in June of last year, and it was me. So who knows when that was actually run prior to that, and that may have just been for committee business. It may not have been something that that was actually needed for statistical purposes for a member library. But this is also supposed to include any clones of these templates. So, or at least the report that we used to get from Blake always did. And so hopefully, and with that many runs, I would think it's including clones. I mean, you've got this one that's way up over 5,000 runs. So I would think that we've got the clones included in that cumulative total there. Okay, so that looks like it's been sorted out. Lori, could you confirm in chat that you actually did get this email to you? It is supposed to go out to every reports committee member each month, and I'm actually going to start keeping these in a folder in our shared drive. Let's see. Okay, didn't get a response from Lori. Oh, there we go. I'm not sure that I got that one. I got one earlier that showed 0. Okay, so this one should have come out on February 1st. That's whenever I got it. So I think he just has it running automatically on the 1st. So if you didn't get that, I need to check with him and make sure that people are still on the list as recipients. I will make a note of that. That Lori, you don't think you got this one. Okay.
Kyle, did you say that the library's name in that last column was the library that ran that report most recently?
Yes. Yes, that's supposed to be the last user and the last library that ran a report on that template.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's again, that's what it's supposed to show. We do have those instances where it's been, since 2018, for instance, that this report's been run by somebody from Stone County, but you know, that I also don't know for sure if this user is actually running off of this template or if they're running off of a clone, or if we can find that out. That may be a bit of information that they may not be able to actually trace down in a report. That may be something that they would have to do a little bit of homework on. But at the very least, the main reason I wanted to include this was so that every once in a while we come across reports or templates at least that we've talked about getting rid of, and we're not sure how valuable it is or if it's still valuable, and we would really like to have somebody to touch base with and make sure that it is still being used by someone, and how. That's another reason that we want to talk to them is, okay, you find this template useful. Why is it useful? Because there are some instances where I think we have two very similar templates that could maybe serve the same purpose, and if we could figure out that someone is using a template that is very, very similar, and another one would serve the purpose, we may still be able to whittle that number down periodically so that we can keep that overall number down. And I see, Lori, your comment. Yes, I did get this. I was looking for that from the wrong address. Okay, yeah, it was from Rogan. So, okay. So it looks like it is going out to the reports committee. That's good. Sorry, I'm just making a note real quick. All right. Okay, so next month we will we'll have this off of the agenda because I think we've more or less got that one got that piece of business taken care of, and we should be getting those each month now. And I'll be saving those to our shared drive so that we can go back through and compare information if we need to. Okay. So the last, the only thing really under new business is a discussion of committee priorities. One thing that came up recently it was actually during a live demo that we did with Joplin. The cataloging representative from Missouri Evergreen, and they were also discussing circulation. Best practices is something that we have for both of those areas of Missouri Evergreen, and I wanted to have a discussion about whether we felt best practices were something that we needed in the realm of reports. I know that we have recommendations for cloning templates before you run reports, and how to best organize your templates and report output and things like that. I don't think that best practices are as important in reports simply because it doesn't impact other member libraries as much. You're really only going to make things a little bit more difficult for yourself if you're not following common or best practices. However, if someone isn't a part of a conversation initially, they may not realize that a best practice has been established for, again, that example that I come back to is making sure that you're cloning templates before you run reports on them. Lori, do you have any thoughts on whether we need best practices for reports, or Diane, either one?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I usually don't use my mic because it's kind of loud here, but I figured I'd be talking a lot. So
Sure.
I think we could have some really brief ones because there are a couple things that would affect other libraries. I believe there was something about deleting some of your old outputs because of how much we had in there. And like you said, cloning. So maybe just something very brief, because like you said, if they join at a later point after that discussion's been had, they might not realize that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, this is maybe a little bit of inside baseball, but I think when I'm thinking about best practices and trying to set policies, I never want it to appear as though the reports committee is trying to impose something on other member libraries. And so I think I kind of err on the side of just kind of being a little bit more hands-off, but I can see where not outlining some of those best practices can actually make it harder for people to know the right way, I guess, to engage with reports and the right steps to take, especially since we haven't always had some of the training checklists and outlines and plans that we have, or at least that we're attempting to establish now.
And I think it's helpful for people to know how they can play with those reports in a way that's not going to affect any other library. So I think that's
Sure.
useful.
Okay. Okay.
I know I like to clone it, and then that way I can manipulate it without messing up anybody else's stuff.
Sure. You know, that's a great point. That's something that I hadn't considered before, but knowing, you know, just the common interactions that you have with folks, especially that are new to something, and especially things that have to do with technology, I think that's a common fear in a shared environment like that, where, you know, I wanted to try this out, but I just wasn't sure, so I just stuck with the template, or I stuck with, you know, the basics, and that very well, I think you're right. There's probably an intimidation factor there. Okay.
I
And
wish we
that's
could
another.
tell,
Sorry, go ahead.
I wish we could impress that on everyone about everything in Evergreen.
Mhm.
You're not going to break something, so don't be scared. We can fix whatever you mess up.
Well, and I really think, you know, we've done a better job. The committee chairs and the board have done a better job recently of highlighting that test server. But I think in the past we've maybe not talked about it quite as much as we should have. That and I know that's something that I've started using a lot more in training and prototyping. Like, for instance, when we started doing our curbside service, I got that more or less figured out on the test server pretty much completely, and then moved all of that over to the production server, and that was so much less nerve-wracking because it wasn't data that was going to stick around or be a problem for anybody. So yeah, that test server is great, and just in general encouraging people to play is important. Okay. Again, just making some notes here. Okay. All right. So training for new migrations, I think that this is obviously something that we need to prioritize going forward. I mentioned it this morning in the membership meeting, but our migration period, our transition period for new libraries is often a very difficult time for them, with a variety of functions in Evergreen, but reports especially. Anybody that's brand new to reports, I think, has a lot of frustration. I know I was that way when we first migrated, and I think we just, those of us who are on the committee and those of us who are active in the community, the Missouri Evergreen community, know that that's just something that happens quite often. So I want to make sure that we have a renewed effort to reach out to people who have newly migrated. So just going through the list, Brookfield Public Library was several months ago, and I reached out to them around the time of migration, but it would probably be time to touch base with them again and make sure that their reporting needs have been met, and that they're finding on a monthly basis they're able to write reports, or excuse me, create and run reports for their board. And we've also been through the public library survey since they joined, so hopefully they found the process of reporting for the public library survey to be fairly straightforward. But it would probably be time to reach back out. So I can take that one and reach out to Brookfield Public Library, because I made the initial contact. Neosho Newton County, I know that Rebecca Payne was nearest to them and was there on their go live date. I was hoping that she would be here today to give us an idea whether they were doing okay. I got an email. Steve Campbell mentioned a few days ago that he was getting word from Carrie Klein there that they were still struggling with some things on Evergreen. And so I don't know if reports was one of them, but I did respond to that email and say that we would be available to help out with reports if that was one of their concerns. So again, that doesn't necessarily have to be me. I wanted to make sure that he knew that the committee was around to respond to any of those concerns. It may end up being Rebecca that does it, but anyway, I was hoping to get her feedback. Diane, can you give any more insight into what they may be struggling with? Do you know?
Yes, their tech services manager called me last week. He didn't mention reports specifically. They have a lot of things that are in transit he had questions about, and he had cataloging questions. So I just felt like we need to do something.
Sure.
My suggestion was that, we're working on this onboarding procedure, that they need to be assigned a library to be working with them, even though they've migrated a few months ago. I just got the feeling from Mark, is the man's name, that they just don't feel like they've been supported, and they have a lot of questions, and they ask questions and it doesn't go anywhere. So the last I heard, there was conversation about having a Zoom meeting or a conference call or something between Neosho, Newton, and maybe Shannon and another person on the board and Equinox to try to work through some of their problems.
Okay. So when you say they ask questions and they don't go anywhere, are they sending support tickets?
I'm not really sure what's going on
Okay.
behind the scenes. I don't think it's support tickets. I think it's contacting Evergreen staff, Missouri Evergreen staff members, and not getting a satisfactory reply, and contacting the courier, Mala, and not getting a satisfactory reply.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, as I said, it may not directly relate to reports, but I wholeheartedly agree that it is absolutely our obligation and responsibility as member libraries that if someone decides to join, we should try to make that process as easy and painless as possible. That seems like kind of a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, and support after the migration. Every library is going to have different skills and different expectations. And we just need to give consistent service to everybody.
Agreed.
Is it possible that we could, like when a new library is coming on, and maybe they already do this, if they could provide a list of what kind of statistics and what kind of reports they need run on a monthly basis, so that we could kind of start to match that up with the reports that we have, so we could tell them.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and that's something that I've been doing verbally whenever I contact a library prior to their migration. But it's absolutely something that we should, since we're formalizing these processes with the onboarding committee, and Diane and I are on that onboarding committee.
Sorry, I was just thinking there's probably a lot of them that we all do for our boards, like circulation by shelving location, or things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that yeah, you're absolutely right. I honestly have wondered over the years how many of our circulation report, or our templates how many of them are used, are actually used regularly and not as an experiment. You know, because running the report that I just shared, you know, it'll show you if something's been run, but anybody that has run reports in Evergreen will tell you, you know, they may run 5 or 6 reports off of different templates before they find the right, you know, one that they're really looking for. And I even though this committee has gone through the process of whittling down the numbers, it really makes me wonder if it wouldn't perhaps be a useful exercise to try to create an even more, I don't know, basic, I suppose, set of reports that could be kind of a starter set for anybody, and then have the rest of the templates still be available, but not necessarily just kind of turn people loose in this big group of templates.
I think that's an excellent idea. And Lori, when you said about there are certain reports that we're probably all running, and that's a good place to start. That's exactly right. And if we could just teach new libraries how to do a few basic things
Mm-hmm.
to start with, and that's the baby steps. Is that what you did when you started making the videos? Is start with the things that most people would be using?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We just, you know, started with, okay, you have to understand how things are structured first, because I mean, from the jump, you know, having templates, reports, and outputs is different from what most people are used to using in a reporting module. And so, you know, we started with that, and then talked about folders and running reports and cloning, and those are, you know, the basics for anybody getting started. Anybody's going to need to know those things. Obviously, there are more in-depth things that we could cover and more advanced things that we can cover, but the basics are the things that we thought would be used the most. So that's where we started. Yeah.
And those reports, you know, and you have that report that you just showed us. You could have, although as you said, people could just be testing, so they're not really running a report. But those reports that are, you can tell that everybody's running every month for the board to know what's going on. Those would be the ones to teach people first.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And as we started the project of creating the report guides, the individual report guides, we didn't have that report, and so we've only recently, because of course, when we switched from Mobius to Equinox was not running that report for us, so we weren't sure which templates were the most popular ones. We had old data that we could, you know, go back to that Blake had provided, but we didn't have anything more recent, and so that was one reason that we wanted to get that report usage data accessible again, so that we could kind of focus those efforts on the things that people are using the most. But yeah, I think circulation and, you know, a few collection reports are the primary statistics that most people are running, or at least that the vast majority of people all share, that they all run. And so those would be good candidates for a basic set of templates.
Yes, a basic set, and we could add that to the onboarding survey. So what kind of reports are you used to running? And then
Right.
hooking people up with the Evergreen report, so they'll know where they need to go and run it for them the first time or something.
Right. And it kind of ties into some ideas that I have about future development in the reporting module, and I actually added that to our agenda. I don't have it on the live version that you guys are seeing, but I have a notes version that here, I'll just bring it over. And I wanted to add something there. I don't know why that went back to 1. Anyway, So, but yeah, I can give you guys a little bit more information about some of my ideas there, and we can talk about next steps for getting some more feedback about how to improve everybody's experiences with the reports module. Um, the
I was
last
just,
library.
oh,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Lori.
oh, sorry. I was just going to say, when you mentioned, Diane, about maybe running it for them, I was just going to say something that I think might be really helpful, something I worried about a lot when we first moved, was maybe not running it for them, but if you could run it as well so that they could check their numbers against yours so they know if they have run their report correctly. When we first started, we were like, is this report correct? Is that, so it might be
Yes.
nice just to have some confirmation that, I got that your cert numbers were this for this month. Did you get that? Are you using this report correctly?
Yeah, good idea.
That is a good idea. Yeah, that's great. Um, yeah. So, and that's something that I know that we experienced here at Trails, and that I've just talked kind of uh, among staff at Trails about, is that just about anybody that comes over to Evergreen, one of their experiences is that even when they've got their circulation numbers, as you said, Lori, to make sure that they've actually run the report correctly, they can run it exactly the way that they expect to run it, and oftentimes their numbers are going to be a little bit higher or a little bit lower than what they expected, or than what they have seen using their previous ILS reporting software. And that's something that we've found pretty common among new migrations. And when we discussed this, or yeah, when we kind of talked about this in a little bit more detail with Mobius, Blake more or less advised us to then advise other member libraries that you kind of have to compare Evergreen numbers with Evergreen numbers. That it's going to report things in a bit of a different way than most other ILSs. So if there is fluctuation from, say, you're in one ILS in August and you migrate in September, your September numbers are going to be a little bit different than what you would have expected from August, and it may not be due to a dramatic shift in usage or traffic by your patrons. It may be just simply that Evergreen records that data or that activity a little bit differently than other ILSs do. He really didn't have a lot of great solutions for that, other than, hey, in a year you can compare yourself to this time last year, and you'll have something to compare it against, which is kind of cold comfort for a lot of people. I know it was for us, but it it's really about the only thing that we can do is to try to compare apples to apples. Okay, but as far as running the report at the same time to get to check the same numbers, that's something that we definitely can do, to say, okay, did you get 743 circs in this time frame for this shelving location? Yes or no? And then that will at least tell them, this person who is experienced at running reports ran it the same way that I did and got the same numbers. So yeah, that's a great idea, Lori. Okay, so the last one was Bowling Green, or the last one on my list for new migrations that we may need to check back with. I did make original contact with them, but Kate Coleman would probably be the member library, or the committee member that would be closest to their location. I believe that she was in contact with them also around the time of their migration, if for no other reason than because she's the chair of the cataloging committee. So she may want to, or she may be able to touch base with them and see if they have any reporting needs. I will touch base with Kate outside of this meeting to see if she can take care of that one. Okay. All right. So the last one is survey for reports module feedback. So It was discussed in the membership meeting this morning that the strategic planning committee had done a survey of member libraries, and that overwhelmingly reports was the module that people were least satisfied with. And so I think that there are some things that we can help with and some things that we can't with regard to what people may actually be frustrated with. But in order to determine which is which, I think we need to get more feedback and we need to get more information from people about what they're experiencing. So what I'd like to do is to create a member survey and try to get some responses from people about with some qualitative answers as well as quantitative, that people can rate things, maybe specific parts of the reports module, or specific actions. Like, I can run reports really well, but I don't know how to make them. That kind of thing. That might be a better way to try to get at the training needs, and also any future possibility of funding some development to try to make one or more aspects of the module easier or better. So with that in mind, I wanted to touch base with the committee, and I think probably what I really need from the committee is a wider variety of perspectives on the kinds of things that we would want to ask about in that survey. And certainly if there's anything off the top of your head that you can think that we definitely need to talk to people about, then we can discuss that now. But I will also touch base with the committee over email, since so many of us aren't here today. Then hopefully they can give me some ideas via email for some questions that we definitely need to ask. Yeah, do either of you have any ideas about things that we definitely need to cover in that survey?
No.
I would think maybe we should ask what they think might help them work better with the report, what kind of training would help them. Sorry, I can't really think of anything more specific.
Sure. Yeah, I was thinking about, again, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was going to say we might want to ask what their experience or comfort level is with Excel. I know we've talked about how some reports are, you can get them, but it's really about manipulating the Excel sheet once you get that, because that could make a big difference.
That's a great idea.
I don't know.
Yeah, we've discussed as part of this committee for a long time, as an alternative to improving people's experience with the reporter, possibly trying to make it easier for them to simply get a large amount of data out by doing a simple report with lots and lots of report or display fields, and then providing access to or pointing people to better training resources on Excel instead of trying to fight the reporting module. Just get lots and lots of information about your circulation, and then you can manipulate that however you want to in Excel to be, I guess, a little bit more comfortable that you've got the data that you need, if that makes sense. So yeah, asking about comfort level with Excel, I think would be a good idea. And something else that I want to mention is that something that happened just a couple of days ago. Shannon, the president of the board, asked me about add-on modules and other development that is possible or that is available for the reporting module, partially because we may have some money left over in our grant because we don't currently have migration scheduled. And that started a conversation with Equinox about development. They had actually apparently planned to do some development in the reporting module already and had applied for a grant to do so. And so they were waiting to hear back from their funding source. And so I just found out yesterday, in fact, from them that they would like to talk to us more about what specifically we want to do with the reports module, what we would like to see improved. So that's pretty exciting to me that they could potentially have not just our funding source if we're able to divert that money from migrations to development, but they also potentially have a grant that they've applied for themselves to potentially improve the experience on the reporting module. I didn't give a lot of detail about that in the membership meeting this morning because a lot of it is still kind of up in the air. They don't even know if they've been awarded the grant yet. So it's a little early to feel like we've got a great plan in place yet, but certainly a good opportunity. So hopefully that ends up working out. But again, getting the survey out and getting more information from member libraries about the details of what they're struggling with, I think would be a good step toward being able to partner with Equinox and get some meaningful improvements made. Okay, that is everything on our current agenda. The next meeting that we would normally schedule would be on March 11th at 2 p.m. Lori, do you have a conflict on that day, or does that day work for you?
I believe that day is fine.
Okay. It will definitely work for me, and I will send out information to the other committee members so that they can let me know if any of them have conflicts. I'll send out notes to this from this meeting rather, and get everybody caught up on what we need to be working on between now and March 11th. March 11th is actually going to be a working meeting for this committee, so we will be getting together to work on training materials and probably putting together some survey materials as well, now that that is something that we are going to be focused on. So unless anybody has anything else to add, I guess I will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys very much for being here. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.